New Zealand, one of the most geographically isolated countries on Earth, sits surrounded by vast oceans, separated from nearby landmasses by thousands of miles. Despite this isolation, New Zealand has blossomed into one of the most unique nations, boasting not only incredible natural beauty, but also a vibrant and diverse culture that is unlike any other. What's even more remarkable is that New Zealand's rich human history has unfolded relatively recently. This island nation, once uninhabited, saw its transformation in just a few centuries due to waves of migration from all corners of the world. So, how did this isolated land, inhabited only by birds and marine life, evolve into one of the world's most desirable destinations? This is the fascinating history of New Zealand. Before we dive in, it's worth noting that some of the historic maps featured in this video are now available for purchase through our online map store. Whether you're a history buff, a collector, or simply someone who appreciates the beauty of old maps, we have a stunning collection waiting for you. These prints make perfect wall art, thoughtful gifts, or additions to any collection. Check out the link in the description below to explore our curated selection and bring a piece of history into your home. New Zealand is the most recently inhabited landmass on the planet. The first humans arrived only about 800 years ago. Somewhere between 1250 and 1300 AD, these early settlers were Polynesians who were part of the Great Polynesian expansion, a period marked by remarkable oceanic exploration and settlement across the South Pacific. These explorers, renowned for their knowledge of navigation, were skilled seafarers who used large ocean-going canoes, known as waka, to traverse vast distances. They didn't just reach New Zealand, but they also traveled to Hawaii, Easter Island, and possibly even South America. When these Polynesians landed in New Zealand, they became the ancestors of the Mori people, bringing with them knowledge of farming, crafting, navigation, and spiritual beliefs. The Mori quickly established permanent settlements along the coasts and river systems of both the North and South Islands. Their society was built around tribes known as Iwai, organized by bloodlines and shared ancestry. They developed sophisticated oral traditions called waka papa that connected individuals to their ancestors, the land, and their spiritual beliefs. One of the key cultural practices that emerged during this time was the building of fortified villages on elevated land, known as pa. These settlements served both as defenses against rival tribes and as social hubs for communal activities such as feasts and religious ceremonies. The Mori worldview was deeply connected to nature, with a polytheistic belief system that included gods and deities governing various aspects of life, from the changing seasons to natural resources. By the 16th century, Mori society had developed a distinct identity, marked by the practice of tattooing, and a complex social structure with chiefs, or rangatira, who held significant influence. However, leadership was not absolute. Chiefs relied on the consensus and respect of their tribes, especially in times of war. Warfare became common as Mori tribes fought over land and resources, with weapons made of wood, bone, and stone. One of the most notable practices during these conflicts was the haka, a ceremonial war dance performed to intimidate enemies and showcase the strength and unity of the tribe. Life for the Mori remained largely unchanged for centuries until the arrival of Europeans in 1642. Dutch explorer Abel Tasman made the first recorded European encounter with New Zealand's Mori people when he sailed along the northwest coast of the South Island. Unfortunately, this meeting quickly turned violent, and after the death of 4 of his crew members, Tasman left New Zealand without making landfall. His visit, however, placed New Zealand on European maps, recorded as Nova Zealandia in 1645, named after the Dutch province of Zeeland. It wasn't until 1769 that European explorers returned. British Captain James Cook arrived aboard the HMS Endeavour, and over the following months, he developed friendly relations with the Mori, although some encounters did end in conflict. Cook's extensive mapping of New Zealand, however, became invaluable for future European explorers, traders, and settlers. Despite British claims over New Zealand, it wasn't until 1840 that the British formally established sovereignty following the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi between Captain William Hobson and over 40 Mori chiefs. This treaty is considered New Zealand's founding constitutional document, though its interpretation, particularly regarding land rights, has been a source of conflict ever since. With the signing of the treaty, British settlers began arriving in New Zealand, driven by the promise of land and a new life. Over the next few decades, land disputes between Mori and settlers escalated, culminating in a series of conflicts known as the New Zealand Wars. These wars, fought between Mori resistance fighters and British forces, dramatically altered the tribal landscape of the country. By the time the wars ended in the 1870s, the British had confiscated vast amounts of Mori land. As the 19th century progressed, New Zealand saw further political and social developments, including the introduction of a comprehensive welfare state labor regulations and universal female suffrage in 1893, making New Zealand the first nation in the world to grant women the right to vote. By the early 20th century, New Zealand had become a prosperous and relatively independent colonial nation within the British Empire. The outbreak of the First World War in 1914 saw New Zealand troops deployed to fight alongside British forces. Despite being far from the main theaters of war, New Zealand's contribution, including the iconic sacrifice of the ANZAC at Gallipoli, solidified the nation's identity and independence. In the years following the war, New Zealand continued to distance itself from Britain, particularly as it entered the Second World War. Post-war, New Zealand's foreign policy began to shift, influenced more by the United States than Britain. This realignment continued through the Cold War, and by 1986, New Zealand had adopted a nuclear-free stance, leading to its suspension from the ANZUS Security Pact with the United States and Australia. Throughout the second half of the 20th century, New Zealand saw an influx of immigrants, particularly from Asia, and experienced a cultural renaissance among the Mori. The Mori language became an official state language in 1987, and Mori culture and political activism grew stronger. Today, New Zealand is a vibrant, multicultural nation with a rich indigenous heritage and a global reputation as a desirable place to live and visit. New Zealand, in just over 800 years, has transformed from a set of uninhabited islands to one of the most sought-after destinations on Earth. Its unique history, shaped by Mori settlers and later by European migration, has made it a nation unlike any other, a blend of ancient traditions and modern progress, standing out as a beacon of beauty, culture, and history for all to admire. So whether you're visiting as a tourist or looking to make a new home, New Zealand offers a way of life that remains as unique and desirable today as it has been for centuries.